Okay, for this exercise, I would just like to discuss two things, two motions that happen in here. One, it is a phase shift, and the other one is a shrinking process given by this number in here. When we take the period, and we might shrink or we might expand. It depends in here. Now, when you have a phase shift, every single point it is moving together in the same fashion. This is what it means phase shift. From the physics, we can borrow the term translation. A phase shift, it is a simple translation, nothing else. Every point moves at the same pace, okay? And this is a phase shift in here. So a phase shift, it would just be that. Let's just put pi over 4, for instance, okay? So every single point, it is moving from the red to the blue, the exact distance pi over 4. If you can just check, look, pi over 2 plus pi over 4, it is going to be 3 pi over 4, okay? In here, pi plus pi over 4, it is going to be 5 pi over 4. So this is what it means to make a phase shift, a pure phase shift, only a translation. But when we start to apply a change in the period, in this case we are shrinking the period, that means that this point and that point, they want to get closer. So the commands are go to the right and go to the left. This is the commands that those points are going to receive. So see, depending on where we are on the curve, each point is going to receive a different command. But when we are doing just phase shifts, every point is receiving the same command. Now imagine when we just mix a phase shift with a change in the period. So let's take a look at this crest. This crest, due to the phase shift, it is trying to move to the right. But due to the changing period, it is trying to shrink, going to the left. So it's going to the right or to the left, depending which one is going to win. Okay? It's just like, let's take this point for instance. It was under the influence of two forces. It wants to go to the right due to the phase shift, because it's going to the right, because it's negative. So that point, it is under this influence, under this force, trying to go to the right. But at the same time, it's under the influence of this other force. And this force, it's what it's making the period being divided by 2. Is the force due to shrinking. So that point, that crest, it is under the influence of this force that wants to move to the right, and this force that wants to move to the left toward this other crest. So is it going to move to the right or to the left? It depends, okay? It depends on the chart, and that's what I wanted to show you here. It's very interesting, this chart. Now look, let's initially what's going on here? Well, it's moving to the right, the blue curve. So now let's apply let's shrink a little bit. Look, okay, but let's apply first pi over 2 is better. Now let's start to shrink, or just pi. Okay, let's just leave just pi in here, just pi. Okay, now that crest moved pi to here, and that crest moved pi to here, no problems. Now let's start to apply some shrinking here. Now look what happened. That crest moved to the right. So far so reasonable, because we have a positive phase shift. But look what happened to that crest. That crest moved to this one, because look, this crest, this one, it is this crest. Look, it moved, okay, from 5 pi over 2, it moved to 7 pi over 4. It returned, right? And as a matter of fact, we were expecting this crest to move to the right due to the phase shift, okay? But why it did not move? Because of this. That crest, it is under the influence of two forces. A force to the right due to the phase shift, and a force to the left due to the period being divided by 2. And what is happening is that in the end, okay, the shrinking force, this force, it is being stronger. That is why the crest moved to the left. You see? Okay. Now, how can we make the shrinking force be not so strong? Let's reduce. Now, just pay attention. We're going to put 1.5. Just pay attention at this crest in here. 1.5. Look. Or maybe 1.7. You see? Okay, 1.9, 1.8, 7. You see? It's moving to the right. Okay? Why? Because by reducing the strength of the shrinking process, the other force to the right, it is gaining more strength. Okay? 1.5, 1.4. You see? Now, let's put 1.1. Now, by reducing the shrinking from 2 to 1.1, look what happens. That crest that initially was in here, remember? Now it's over there. So that's why I say, where is that crest going to be? To the right or to the left? You can't tell just looking at the equation, okay? Because we have to acknowledge that you have two forces going on. We have a force going to the right due to the phase shift and one to the left. And we can play with this a lot, okay? In here, both crests move to the right. But if I just make in here instead of 1.12, now this crest move to the left and this to the right. And that is why it is very important to not to play with any point in here. So when you want to move a point from this chart to that chart, a point from this pure sign to a more complex sign, if you want to do this, and if we have a phase shift together with a changing period, please just take the points that are under the y-axis, okay? When x equals 0. Why? Because under this x, they are just going to suffer the influence of the phase shift. It's much easier to work, meaning that force. Let's discuss about the points that are in here under the y-axis, okay? Those points, they are not going to suffer the influence of the shrinking, okay? This is not happening. Why? This force is not taken into account for everybody that is on that axis. Why? Because this axis has a very interesting property. It has x equals 0, isn't it? Okay? It is x equals 0, this one. Now, make x equals 0 in here. When x equals 0, this term disappears. So, the shrinking period disappears when x equals 0. So, we don't have any more this, okay? We can just throw away. We are only our sign now is only influenced by the phase shift. So if we just wanted to take that point to that chart, good, but choose anybody on the y-axis, okay? This is 0 in here, and now this 0 is going to be phase shifted pi over 2, because that is what the phase shift it is in this example. So that point it is going to move forward pi over 2. That's it, okay? I just wanted to explain to you. But what about that point? Oh, this point is different, because any other point that has x different than 0, like x equals pi, 2 pi, pi over 4, it doesn't matter. If it's not on the y-axis, it's going to be influenced, let's take this point, by those two forces. And every single point in here, the crest is being influenced by those two forces. And that means that you just must be careful, okay? To pick a point in the middle of the chart and try to place in here. In order not to be to take something wrong, please choose a point in here. Okay? So thank you very much.